congratulate Center of Pakistan International Relations for organizing and hosting this very important seminar, which is very much at the heart of current discussion, academic discourse, TV talks, etc. The topic which I have been given is Pakistan foreign policy toward Middle East, challenges and the way forward. In 10 minutes is damn difficult to encapsulate each and everything of Middle East, because the people who are well versed with the dynamics of Middle East is a very complex and very difficult era. As Mr. Khalid Latif in his introduction has spoken, that Middle East is a very volatile area, very volatile. I think since 1904 to 05, when this area was conceived, this area has never been in peace. Not an elusive peace, but even a peace of 1 day or 2 days. There have been conflicts and crises, etc., etc. Fortunately or unfortunately, Pakistan has been involved into Middle East right from the very beginning, because Middle East is known to be a problem for Palestine. And Pakistan All India Muslim League in its various proclamations have given support. Qazi Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the father of the nation of Pakistan, has given unequal support to the issue of the Palestine. I don't want to go into details and backgrounds, but coming very pertinent and current, there are three major areas where Pakistan is attached to the Middle East. One is the political issues. Of course, we cannot ignore the issue of Palestine. And very recently, Pakistani Prime Minister, Pakistani Foreign Minister, Pakistani nation, all have supported the cause of the Palestinian, which this Gaza war for a couple of days had continued, and hundreds of people have been killed and assassinated. The second most important issue is the dynamics of Middle East, where Pakistan is automatically involved. And as an academic, I would not be hiding anything. The rivalry between Saudi Arabia and Iran is catching Pakistan, compelling Pakistan to time and again attach, as probably Mr. Khalid Latif in his introduction has spoken, that Pakistan had in fact defense cooperation with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and so many other countries. But this new equation of Saudi and Iranian rivalry is a very delicate position for Pakistan foreign policy. And I've been saying in my all talks that it's a very critical issue for Pakistan, how to balance the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Iran. The third most important issue is the revenues. Pakistan expats. There are millions, about 4 to 5 million Pakistanis living in the Gulf area. And it is not only that, it is also important that they are a very important revenue generation for Pakistan. Between $5 to $8 billion per annum is the revenues which the expats transfer to Pakistan. So it's a huge amount of Pakistan's overall GDP, its revenue income. So Pakistan is caught up in these very important issues. The fourth issue which has just been propped up, I must also highlight the Abrahamic Accord, in which certain Arab countries have recognized Israel. And corollary to this is the Indian huge involvement with Saudi Arabia, UAE, and there is a talk going on. I'm also working on this. The nexus between Israel, India, and some of the GCC states. So Pakistan is being threatened. Pakistan foreign policy is being challenged. Last thing before I go to the way forward, the last thing is, please remember, we are not living in 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s. We are living in the age of geoeconomics, where economics, trade, investment matters. What Pakistan has non-skilled workers. More than 5 million Pakistani non-skilled workers are working in the Gulf region. What is their contribution to their economy? So, and secondly, please, very important thing. The second important thing is the people who were being, Pakistan had given them all out their support in bringing socio-economic development to their particles. They are no more there. They are princes now. The kings of those 70s and 80s are no more there. So the burden of Pakistan over to them, overdue, is no more there. So they now talk about business, investment, etc., etc. So what Pakistan can offer them, what Pakistan can give them. So if we see that, I'm just looking after the figures, the Saudi Arabia has promised in February 2019 to invest, please see the figures, $100 billion in India. Which is staggering. It's a challenge for Pakistan. Why not the same amount of money? I mean, because we cannot offer those things. So I think the major challenge lies with us. What commodity we have, how much relevant we are to the issue of economics and trade and investment. And I don't want to go into very delicate issues of $3 billion which Saudi Arabia gave to us and then what happened to it. So it's a very delicate position. As an academic, as an opening batsman for your co-peer discussion, I must highlight these issues. I must not be hiding these issues. Because at the one hand, Saudi Arabia is investing $100 billion in India. On the other hand, we are being demanded of $3 billion, vagara, vagara, vagara. So these are major challenges. Now the way forward. The way forward is, number one, we should not shy away from supporting the Palestinian cause of self-determination. Because if we do that, our issue, our stand, our principal position on Kashmir would be compromised. It's not an issue of the Muslim Ummah. It's not an issue of Pakistan. It's an issue of humanity. It's an issue of principles of United Nations. It's a principles of international humanitarian law, first and foremost. Second important thing is, for Pakistan, Saudi Arabia is a geo-economic reality, as I told you, more than $5 to $8 billion. And Iran is a geopolitical reality, 900 kilometer border with Iran. We cannot ignore that. The Gwadar is being supplied, electricity of Gwadar, 100 megawatt is being supplied by Iran. So we cannot ignore those factors. So here's a challenge for Pakistan foreign policy. I think Ambassador Khalid Mahmood and other would be maybe dwelling upon this. This is a critical case of Pakistan foreign policy, how to balance between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And I think here we must be cognizant of the fact that what are the fundamental national security issues of Pakistan. Because we should not be working on the third party issues of Saudi Arabia and Iran. Both are very, very, very important for us in terms of geopolitics and geoeconomics. The last issue is the economic, the trade, the investment. I think Pakistan must prepare itself, its people, its skilled worker, that they must compete with others. Just last night, I read the news on different TV channels that Pakistan, over the years, for the last 2 years, have been the largest exporter of manpower to the world, to GCC states. Good enough, 200 people, 2.5 lakhs people have gone. But those are mainly unskilled people. We must prepare them. There is no denying the fact Pakistan has a lot of potential, but we cannot. Cannot we harness two things? I was just reading a very disturbing news, and that is that Saudi Arabia has included India into its strategic plans, strategic partnership council for the Vision 2030. This is a major challenge to Pakistan. I think we must be preparing ourselves. If we are not, and then lastly, Ms. Amna Malik, she's a great entrepreneur and great leader. Like people like her, they must be competing with all the trade leaders with the Gulf states on equal basis. That we are ready to give you startups, we are here to give you businesses, we are here to give you new ideas, because now the era of personal meetings have gone. It's an online everything. A prince sitting in his cozy room can talk to any leader of the world So I think we should be looking to this. Pandemic, COVID-19 has posed severe restrictions, but I think this webinar can open up new vistas of opportunity for us. And I think as an academic, I must say, we must be preparing ourselves for the future, not living in the past. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you very much. And earlier we were talking about the storm which was hitting Wa, and I was saying that thanks God we have Maglas in between, and it is not has crossed yet towards us. It has finally crossed, and we are facing the same music which you were facing earlier, sir. And we have a question for you, sir. And the question is about, as we all know, that India caters the Middle Eastern countries when it comes to bread basket, being the bread basket of the Middle Eastern state. And let's say we lost in terms of, during Pakistan was busy in war and terror, Pakistan has lost a lot in terms of trade, which was being done to the Middle Eastern countries. So now when we see that being the bread basket of the Middle Eastern countries, India has penetrated itself deeply into the Middle Eastern or the Gulf, rich Gulf states. How can Pakistan revive again? And of course, do we have the capacity to revive if, let's say, for an instant, Middle Eastern countries, they do consider Pakistan as one of the countries that can be classed as, you know, their bread basket or something. Are we able enough to cater the Gulf countries? And if we are not, what we have to do about it? Sir, if you can unmute you.
Yes, Faisal, you have hit a very important question. And I think this is the most pertinent. There's no denying the fact that Pakistan has the potential. Pakistan has the ability, but it depends on the prudence, sagacity, and the vision of our leadership. I'm not saying the leadership only in Foreign Office, I'm saying the leadership at the political level. Because as you know very well, and our other friends, Khalid Latif Saab, Ambassador Khalid Mahmood Saab, they know very well that the Saudis, the Gulf monarchs, they have a different level of interaction. I hope, if I'm not wrong, I don't have an Arabic mastery, but the difference between Rafiq and Miskeen, I think we should become Rafiq, not Miskeen. We should not be begging them. Opportunities are knocking on our doors. Please remember, I cannot divulge so many information on this particular webinar, but one particular opportunity which is knocking our door is the Qatar World Cup Football 2022. Have you prepared yourself for that? You are the largest producer of football sport goods from Sialkot. Have you marketed it? Have you held any one single side show or road show in Pakistan, any city? So I think potential is there. But the problem is that you are not visionary enough. I think this requires a very, very hard soul searching. You don't do this. You just take this to the people of Malir. You just take it to the people of Karachi, where they play football. Hundreds and thousands of people would be siding it, and the people of the world would be watching you. Okay, now here's a product, here's a man force. So opportunities are there, Faisal. I think we are not cognizant of the opportunities and knocking. And the good people, the good leaders, the good nation are who are capitalizing on the given opportunity. The second case is the Vision 2030. How much we can offer to Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Tourism, hospitality, hoteling, food, cuisines. Did we I mean, we have potential. You and me, Raja Saab, Akram Sayyed, Shah Saab, Kandil Shah Saab, although he believes in Kali Kukuris, like even then, we have a lot to offer. Cuisines, biryani. People love to eat that. Have you marketed it? No. That's a dilemma. That's a problem. And I think the government should give these things to person like Ms. Amna Malik, person like Khalid Latif, person like me and you. We should market it. But where is the incentive? How we can proceed further? And I think there's no breadth of potential. There's no breadth of abilities. The only issue is that we are not harnessing the lady luck which is knocking at our door. Please remember, please remember, please remember that Pakistan is a geopolitical pivot of the world. We have 3 nuclear powers in our vicinity. 4th may be coming soon.